Hi everyone. My name is Angela Huang, and I'm the founder and principal consultant of Revgen Consulting. So we specialize in marketing business development strategies for real estate funds, and in particular, those that make a positive impact and provide a solution for the communities they serve. So in that regard, I'm just really thrilled to work with Yvette. In fact, when I met Robert a few months back and he introduced me to Yvette as his right-hand person for Launchpad, of course, with her being the director of operations for Launchpad and being a key member of the team, I just knew right away that, she's a force to be reckoned with. And from the get-go, I could tell why Robert chose Yvette to be part of Launchpad because she's driven, sharp, and definitely keeps things on track. And most importantly, she truly cares and wants to do what's best for the community. And I know I've said this before, and I'll say it over and over again. I am really, truly honored to work with the Launchpad team here, and I'm very excited to have this fireside chat with Yvette. And I know, Yvette, we have a lot to talk about. But I want to kind of kick this off by having you share your journey and what really brought you here and how you came to partner with Robert to achieve this great mission behind Launchpad. So tell us more about that.
Thank you, Angela, for the introduction. That was wonderful. So Robert and I met during the pandemic on another initiative. He was an educator at the time. I was a nurse at the time. He was trying to get students fed through the pandemic, right, because people weren't going to school. I was talking to him about the inequities I was experiencing in the health world. He was telling me about the inequities that he was experiencing in the education world. And, he brought it to my attention. Hey, have you ever thought about real estate before? And so I hadn't, but we continued to talk. His vision of real estate, fighting gentrification, smart economic development, really about the community for the community. And I have always been that way myself. I was a young mom. So that saying, it takes a village, it really does take a village, right? So I embraced my community because my community embraced me, and I had taught about giving back to my son early. And so I loved what Robert was all about, what his vision of real estate, right? Because you think about real estate, and well, I thought about real estate. I thought about like car salesman, right? Sales. It's not like something that is really, I guess, highly thought of like in a good regard, right? And so it's all about the commission and money. But the way Robert presented it really, caught my attention, wanted me to learn more. And finally, I decided, all right, let me get my license and see what this is all about. So he mentored me through real estate. I became a real estate agent, became a residential real estate agent. And like I said earlier, our mission was to combat, or is to combat gentrification, right? By turning renters into homeowners, educating homeowners how to use their equity to buy real estate. And then we did the same for small businesses. So the first few years of that was educating the community, making sure that people knew about home ownership, ownership in general, because businesses as well, and then generational wealth. Through that process, right, Robert was developing the Launchpad. And so it came to fruition through that. And then, like, just recently this year, we transitioned from brokerage to development. And so it was just a smooth transition through that because I have been with his brokerage from the beginning. And that's how we came to be doing Launchpad. His vision, right, with a little bit of my experience in healthcare, the TAE community, and things like that. And yep, that's how we came to working on the Launchpad.
And I'm really inspired by your career journey because you've had quite a big pivot, right? Like to go from being in the healthcare industry to real estate, that's a very big transition. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So like I said, the pandemic really just shined a light on inequities, right? And so in the healthcare field, I've been in the healthcare since 2002. So I became a medical assistant. Like I said, I was a young mom. So right out of high school, I needed to make money. So I went to trade school, got my medical assistant, and started working. But through that, working with doctors and in the medical field, other nurses, they were like, Yvette, you need to do more. And I wanted to do more, right? So I went back to school and got my nursing. And so I became a nurse in 2008. And so, working in the acute care, working in private doctors' offices, I worked for the County of Riverside Department of Mental Health. That's where I got my homeless population experience, my TAY experience. And, you just see the older nurses getting burned out, right? And kind of jaded. And I always said, like, I'm not going to be that nurse, right? I'm a nurse for a reason. I wanted to, elevate myself to become a better nurse. And so I never wanted to be that. Well, nothing like a global pandemic to fast forward some burnout, right? So I worked through COVID. I was taking care of COVID patients, and and it was a all hands on deck type of thing, right? These COVID patients were in the ICU, and ICU nursing is different than just nursing because you need more accreditations, more experience, right? But I didn't have the ICU experience, but I could still give meds and I can still do things like regular nursing if they're on a regular floor, right? So it was a whole team approach, right? I saw nursing in a different aspect, had some experiences through COVID, right? The political climate was kind of not as bad as it is now, but it was still something to reckon with back then. And quickly realized that I was in a system where I needed to stay in my lane. Had some conversations with some heads of the company I was working for at the time, and basically was like, you just need to stay in your lane. And I was like, no, like I can't, because I saw the inequities. I saw that I needed to serve in other ways. And just around that time is when I met Robert, and he started talking to me about real estate and other ways that he has served and other things that he has seen. And he had asked me at one point, like, if you had your dream job, like if you could do whatever you want in life and not have to worry about anything, what would it be? And my answer was to serve young kids, to
Mm.
serve teenagers like myself. I was a teenage mom. I grew up in different disparities all around me, people being in jail, gangs, unstable families, things like that. And so he was like, okay, cool. And so, like, thinking about what I was going to talk about today and about everything comes full circle. And, the launch pad, helping Tay, helping the youth that are aging out of the foster care system, just youth in general. I truly believe that the youth are the future, right? I mean, how can
Mhm.
they not be? They are going to be taking over our shoes and leading the charge after we can't anymore. So making the change from nursing to real estate wasn't really like a career shift. And I think I did just post this on LinkedIn. It was more of like a shift in the way I served, right? I was no longer serving the way I wanted to in nursing. And so I chose to serve this way. And I'm so glad I did, because really the alignment with my purpose, my passion is really being able to be shown through this project. I've even gone back to school. I'm a student at Cal Baptist University, Public Health, just so that I can become more educated and elevated even more about the work that we're doing.
I love that. And what's really inspiring is that you chose to really focus on your ambition and really going for what you want to provide a better life for you and your son. And I think that it's so powerful because I think often people think, okay, I had my child at a young age and that stunted my growth, or, I just couldn't do this and that. But I just really find it inspirational that, you thought, you chose to change that narrative for yourself, that you thought, what, this is actually an opportunity. This is not,
Yep.
anything that's gonna stand in my way. And, that's really beautiful. And the fact that you've really carried that mission and wanting to give back to the community. And, it was really interesting also when you were talking about you had certain perceptions about the real estate industry and so forth. So I'm kind of curious to know, pivoting from brokerage to development as well, like what are some of the things that you've been really surprised by when it comes to like real estate development world?
Well, like I said, I've learned a lot because that perception that I have, it wasn't so far-fetched, right? So I've learned a lot that there's people that don't have our best interest at heart and things. But I also learned that it sounds so cliche, but you vibe with your tribe, right? We present the Launchpad to everybody the same way. And because the mission is the same and the purpose is the same and the intent is the same. And so the ones that are gonna vibe with us and that, wanna partner with us will, and the ones that don't won't, right? So it really, I mean, again, sounds so corny and cliche, but it has taught me that lesson in general in life, right? That's how it's going to be. As long as you're living in your purpose and doing what you're supposed to be doing, that your tribe will vibe with you, that will follow you. And so I think working in development has taught me that, like just that, and that we don't always have to, we always use this analogy, I'm sure you've heard it about the crabs in the bucket, where everybody's, if one's trying to climb up and then the other crabs bring them down. But I feel like we're that hand that goes in the bucket so the crabs could lock on and then we could all come out together, right? And I think that's what the Launchpad has also taught me about, is that it's all about collaboration. The development, the Launchpad is not just, and Rob says this all the time, it's not just his project, it's not just our project, it's the collective project, our partners, the community. So it has taught me how collaboration works best.
So, there's always the positives, like you said, the people that truly believe and the people can see your vision come to life. And, you mentioned there are certain people who don't. So I'm curious to see, what would you say are some of the challenges that you faced in really, making Launchpad, happen, and also in people's sort of like inability to see what you're trying to achieve. I'm just kind of curious about some of the challenges that you're facing in that regard.
That's a good question, because there is a lot of that. Launchpad is innovative, especially here in San Bernardino. So I think the most challenging part is status quo. People want innovation, but are scared of innovation. And so, and just tend to be like, oh no, we can't do that, or that hasn't been done before, or, things like that, instead of, all right, let's see how this is going to work. And that's another thing that really attracted me to working with Robert, is that he's not the type of person that's gonna like be like, oh no, we can't, or he's like, okay, let's figure it out. If we want to do it, then we got to figure it out, and we're not waiting on anybody, and we're gonna figure it out. So I think the hardest part is trying to convince people like, no, we want innovation, we need innovation, then we have to be innovative, right? And no more status quo, no more we can't, because the we can'ts have brought us to where we are now, right? And so we have to be creative, and we have to be forward thinking. So being able to, like I said earlier, it's just scary. Change is scary, innovation is scary, and so to take away that fear from those people, I think, is the best strategy, right? Education is the best strategy, because people are scared. And I actually learned this about racism in elementary school, right? People usually are racist because they don't know, they're scared, right? Education, right? And so, and also I think that applies across the board, right? People fear things that they don't know. And so education is the best way to overcome those fears.
That's right. And speaking of, I'm kind of curious to know, I totally agree with you that it's like educating the people about what you are trying to do with Launchpad. So for people who quite don't get it at the moment, or who are just like, we're not really sure, and, who just don't understand it, what
Yeah.
do you wish they knew more about Launchpad's mission? Like, are there certain things that you really want to emphasize?
That we're not just developers, we're community builders, right? I think that's why I went straight back to the beginning when you asked the first question, is because you have to know what we've been working towards, our the history we have here in San Bernardino, because our mission has always been the same. We are trying to combat gentrification, and we are combating gentrification, right? And elevating our Black and Brown people that haven't had the same opportunities that everybody else has throughout the years. And so knowing that our mission has always stayed the same throughout, it's just the work has changed, because even through our brokerage, we were engulfed in the community, right? We went to community meetings, even with the community, with government officials, city council, things like that, to hear what the community was saying. And so the Launchpad didn't just come about just because, oh, we're just going to do a Launchpad. It's very intentful, from Robert's experience, his education and expertise, right? And then everything that we experienced here, and what the community needs, right? It addresses everything that the community needs. And so, well, I guess I didn't really answer your question. So what I would say, like, to the people that just don't get it, like, it's okay. Like, I learned, through this process, I've been like, well, if they don't get it, like, how, like, what the heck, they need to be on board, because we're just doing good, and blah, 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 blah. But like, I get it, I don't take it personally. I can't take it personally. And the only thing that I can do is continue doing the work, because the work will show. Our partnerships continue to grow, so that shows. And then, the people that we getting the assistance and thriving, it's going to show. And so everybody will be on board one day. It's just everybody has their different time frames.
I love that. Yes, it's the time frames. It's like I totally agree with. I love that.
Yeah.
I agree. It's just a matter of when they will get it. I like that a lot.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I
And
think
we
that,
were,
go ahead.
no, I was just saying, we were just talking about that either today or a couple of days ago about, the amount of risk that, people are willing to take. And
Mm.
everybody's different. Everybody's situation is different. So, yeah. So I just wanted to add
No,
that.
that's true. It's like, what do they call it? It's like that risk level or kind of like how comfortable they are. And like you
Yep.
said, when you're doing something so different that they've never seen before, I think that they just don't get it in the beginning, or they don't quite say
Right.
because they've never seen it. So when you are trying,
Exactly.
it's like when people, brought like iPhone or smartphone, it's like, well, I don't know, because a phone is just a phone to do one thing. They didn't realize actually you can do more with this.
Mhm.
So is there anything else that you would really like to share with people watching about yourself or Launchpad or anything else?
I think I covered everything. I just want, people to know that, I mean, I think I covered everything, that, that we're not just developers, we are community builders. And, if you want to know more about Launchpad, contact us, because we're always looking for partners. We can't emphasize enough that it's about the collaboration and the collective, right? We're not experts in everything. That's why we invite partners.
That's awesome. Well, we really encourage you to check out our spotlight on some of the community partners that Launchpad works with, to really get an understanding of the collaboration that exists. And, I've said this to Robert before, where, when you and Robert both present Launchpad and everything about what you're building here, the part that really stands out, there's a lot of things that you say that I'm always, whoa, that's great, but the part that really stands out is, we're not just doing this on our own. We're not, it's not just us. It's this entire team of people and the
Yeah.
community partners and so forth. And when we were doing the spotlight on the community partners, that really, came through. So, well, thank you for everything that you're doing. And I'm just, really thrilled to be talking to you and doing this fireside chat, and get in touch with us to learn more. And we'll be sure to add Yvette's contact at the end. Yeah, please reach out.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much for everything you do as well.
Thank you.